Okay, so Chasca, one of the most controversial characters in Genshin Impact at this point. I just have to say that. Do I regret her? The simple answer is no, actually. Honestly, for a character that I was not even subbing for. The entire purpose of me subbing on her banner was to get Auroron, but I got Chasca in 50 summons, and I'm still raising up Auroron. I think Chasca is going to be pretty nice. I think she's going to be pretty good, but I think we're going to have to wait and see with the Pyro Archon and maybe even Citlali. We got to see what she does because, honestly, those are two characters that could possibly just be a part of Chasca's team, and it would work fantastic. Because if Citlali is a support character, she may be a DPS, whatever, you know? So those characters just existing, giving her more options right now because, well, Furina, if you saw my last video where I took her against Abyss and I took her against all the chambers, as soon as we had to remove Furina from the team is when we started seeing issues, right? Because Furina right now is a pretty strong character, and she's like one of the only characters who can seriously help out Chasca quite a bit. And there is an issue with having a Hydro character in your team against the Hydro Tulpa who makes it immune. Let's say we have, you know, Pyro Archon, and Pyro Archon is able to do something similar to Furina, right? And she doesn't require as much energy as Shangling. A lot of people were using Shangling against the Hydro Tulpa. I personally don't like Shangling on this team just because her energy problems are just, they're unavoidable. And even as a person who has a 230 energy recharge Shangling, you feel it. You just feel it. It's as simple as that. You feel Shangling's energy every single time you use her. It is awful. If the Pyro Archon solves that, does off-field Pyro application, then Hydro Tulpa won't be a problem anymore. It's just as simple as that, right? I literally, in my video title, I was like, Hydro Tulpa hard counters, and it's not even really that it hard counters, you know, Chasca, because Chasca, sure, she gets hit out of the air with the Hydro Tulpa, that's one thing, but Furina being Chasca's best character to be used with right now really hurts her. You could argue that Bennett is there too, but I would honestly say that Furina is providing damage bonus, which is what Chasca desperately needs, because Chasca doesn't have like damage bonus for her stuff, right? Because you don't use a goblet of damage bonus on her because she's doing all the elements, right? So it's something like that. So Furina is hitting a lot of damage off field, and especially with my C1 Furina, I really felt a difference when, you know, taking her off the team because she's so strong, right? And if we can get, you know, Pyro Archon be able to be a very good slot in instead of Furina, and, you know, Shangling can just sort of sit there and do her thing, you know, and then we can stop having to use Shangling, I think that's just going to be a great option, and that's really going to add some versatility to Chasca's team, which she really doesn't have right now. Now, Sheilunen's been in my team. Now, I've already been judged for that because people, you know, don't realize I have C2R1 Shielunen, so sometimes when I just want to use C2R1 Shielunen, I use her, and she gives 45% HP to Furina, and she's giving damage bonus for Chasca. Now, another thing is, with the Pyro Archon, you might be able to sneak in, get rid of Bennett, right? You might be able to get rid of Bennett, and then have Furina on her regular set, and then a third character, maybe like Shenhe, or not Shenhe, but Citlali, yeah, sure. Let's say Citlali is good. You put her on Cinder, you can possibly get a trifecta of buffs with the Cinder City set, just with those two characters. As long as Mauvika is reacting with, you know, Furina here, and then Citlali goes ahead and she reacts with, you know, Mauvika or whatever, the elements will then all get 40% damage bonus, which will be insane for Chasca. That is actually going to be really, really good for Chasca. But normally, this is the team that I use. This team is very good. I mean, in the current Abyss, besides the Hydro Tulpa phase, you basically clear every other stage in a minute. I've had 47 seconds. I've had, you know, 55 seconds. It's very, very good. And that's going to translate to other Abysses too, because Aqua Simulacra plus the 80% attack buff is actually kind of similar to her signature weapon. So if you have her signature weapon, that'll translate over to other Abysses. So you're seeing like nearly 1 minute times, which I would say is a really good moniker of a good character. Now that is only for like these single target stages, but like I mentioned before, these single target stages are very common now ever since Natlin has arrived. We haven't really had those, you know, Abyss phases that are like super insane. We haven't really had Abyss phases that are like, oh wow, you know, 5 enemies in one Abyss phase. That is when Chasca's not really going to feel that great to play, but hopefully she'll have an avenue for single target bosses. So Chasca's really able to put in some work. Right now, I think it's just down to her teams. because right now you can struggle for energy on her teams, and I think hopefully Pyro Archon can, sort of solve that. And if Pyro Archon does do enough damage off field, we can possibly just get rid of Bennett and just say her damage is better than buffing Chasca, which may end up being a case. And like I said, Pyro Archon would be able to run the Cinder City set, assuming she, supports, which Pyro Archon, it's basically guaranteed that she's able to pyro off field, right? It's a guaranteed, guys. So the Pyro Archon would be able to react with the Cinder City set on either maybe Furina or Shenhe, right? And that would be pretty good. So that would buff that damage, and then also doing off-field pyro, possibly doing some good damage. That may end up being better than having Bennett on the team, and then you would not have circle impact also. So I'm very confident that, Chasca, right now, she's not even at her peak. Like, let's just say that. She's not even at her peak. A lot of people have been using Electro Charge with Chasca, specifically with Auroron. I do think that you probably want some pretty good constellations on Auroron, because his C6 gives everyone, or not everyone, but the active character 30% attack, which is pretty good. And then also, you keep the Hydro application, apparently, with Electro Charge, so the Hydro Aura will stay, and then you'll be able to vape on your Pyro hits if you're running another Pyro character like Bennett, right? So that would be pretty good. And then also, this passive seems pretty good also. 1.8 seconds, 160% of his attack. That is akin to Fischl's thing, but, Fischl, her thing, yeah, you can have this with Fischl, basically. This 80% attack with Fischl, this has no ICD and works great in aggravate teams and stuff, because she'll just hit with an aggravate hit every single time this thing is procced. And that really is what makes Fischl pretty strong, along with, Oz and all that stuff, right? And I think Auroron has that similar kit, but for Electro Charge, he has a higher base, double the attacks, like scaling on this for 1.8 seconds, It's pretty good, I would say. So I think Auroron, even at C0, he can still provide some stuff, because you will also be running him on Cinder City and reacting with Electro or reacting with Hydro, and then, you can have a Pyro character on your team. He'll be buffing the Hydro and Electro damage bonus. That's pretty good. To be able to get the damage bonuses for your two elements that you're running, that's pretty good. So overall, right now, I don't think Chasca is even close to being as bad as people are very much so making her out to be. I think she's a great single target character. Sure, she can very, very easily fumble when it comes to AoE, but I think as long as you don't go beyond 2 targets, it seems fine, right? We haven't had an Abyss with 3 targets lately, so we're going to have to see and test when that does come out, like how well does Chasca fare, right? Because that'll be a good way to test, right? Because her bullets are not going to react as easily with 2 opponents, right? So what happens when they're all split between 3 opponents? You might never even get a reaction, or possibly you would have to be forced to use a team that can apply Hydro enough or apply Pyro enough to make sure that you vape or do all this stuff on every single one of your hits that hit, right? It is possible that in that 3 enemy scenario, you're forced to use a team that is constantly applying a certain element so your bullets can actually react with it. Like, let's say when you get to 3 enemies, you basically have to apply the enemies with a element, right? So let's say we're applying Cryo, and then you can sort of go ahead, have her absorb a Pyro bullet, fire it, and then you'll melt, right? That can work to a certain extent. Like, we can try that, but it's also gonna hinder the team, right? Having to be able to apply that much Pyro or Cryo, it'll hurt. It'll hurt because not even Shenhe, I don't think her burst is good enough. I mean, on this team, I don't really see melts a lot on my, hits with Pyro. I generally see vapes from either the Pyro or the Hydro, just because Cryo is a hard element to apply. But, we'll have to see when it comes time when we're against 3 enemies. But as of right now, I don't expect there to be 3 enemies, in the Abyss. They very clearly, for some reason, have been avoiding putting so many enemies in Abyss. I don't know whether it's to sort of, nerf Nevi's, like, high potential. But so far, I would say if you look at the more recent Abyss cycles, like, it always will depend on enemies, and you can always trust that Nevi will take out the enemies because his single target damage isn't so bad, and that's why he's the #1 DPS in the game. But if you looked at, the specific new Abysses, I would say you have a good argument for Arlecchino being better, because Arlecchino is not being hindered by anything. It's not like she has a load of opponents that she's killing. Like, she can very easily hit 2 opponents at once, and at that point, she's doing more damage than Nevi, I would say. But that's a back and forth that, doesn't really involve Chasca, because Chasca just is not that character, right? She is not that kind of character who can deal like with the big dogs, right? She's not a top tier DPS. I don't think she is. So I don't think Chasca is a top tier DPS. I think a lot of people, it seems like a lot of people are on the extremes. Like Chasca's like, oh my god, she's insane, best character in the game. Or not really best character in the game, but she's like the top tier DPS. Or they hate her and they want her to die. And that's where I'm looking. Like, I don't see any comments like level-headed, just like, oh yeah, no, Chasca's completely fine. There's no, she's not great, but she's still good. I mean, I've seen a couple, but like it far is outweighed by the people who absolutely love her and then the people who absolutely hate her. It's very, very weird to me how this character has divided people so much. I honestly think it is just because we have Pyro Archon coming out. Most people are trying to either downplay her to the point where they don't feel like they have to summon, or the other people are trying to upplay her because they summoned and they don't want to regret it. I feel like there's a good chance that's what's happening, but I can't say for certain everyone's motives, right? I'm generalizing a little bit too much here. I just hope that people, stop hating on Chasca so much, because she does seem very good. I will say that. Like, she just does seem very good. I think she's going to be good. I think all the, Citlali and Pyro Archon could possibly make her even better, right? I mean, Shinha is a pretty good buffer, and I think this is one of the only times I've actually gotten serious use out of Shinha. Shinha could possibly be replaced by Citlali depending on, how well it goes, because you have 15% cryo damage here, and then you also have, 15% here. That's 30% along with her actual buffs. But Shinha can have energy issues depending on what Citlali does. Like, if she's gonna, like Cinder City, right? Just have Citlali react once, and that is 40% damage bonus to cryo, and then 40% damage bonus to whatever element she reacted with, right? Shinha not really doing that, but Shinha is actually giving her the Icy Quills, which actually, the Icy Quills actually really, really help out Chasca more than actually any cryo DPS. Ganyu would probably be the one that you would say, but Ganyu doesn't want Shinha because she wants more melt-centric team, which means you need Bennett, you need Nahida to give her EM, and then you need a Pyro applicator, or yeah, because Bennett and Nahida are not enough to apply Pyro. Yeah, I mean, it's just what it is. Chasca came out and saved Shinha, and it's gonna be very funny if Shinha gets replaced on this team from Citlali. That'll be really funny. But like I said, all Citlali has to do is react with an element, and she's giving both of the elements in that reaction 40% damage bonus. And then whatever else she's doing in her kit, that could end up being very good. Even if she's able to just do, like, imagine Citlali does like 200k burst, right? That kind of damage could be good enough to warrant Shinha's replacement. I'm going to be honest. I don't think Shinha is providing that much. From what I've seen, it's probably around 20,000 damage per Icy Quill that she's adding. So if you take that and you just max it out at 7, that's 140,000 damage. So if you see Lolly's doing 200,000 damage with just raw on her burst, that would be pretty insane. And like, this is just me predicting, but like, it literally, that's all she has to do, and she will be good. And I mean, she would have to do her burst every rotation, whereas Shinha has no energy problems, technically, because all of her buffs really are on this, and then you have this, which can also decrease the res, but that's only physical and cryo res. It's not really that big of a deal. So yeah, overall, I don't regret Chasca at all. I'm actually very happy that I have Chasca. I think that she's a great character, and the summons that I got her, I still have 70 summons into the character banner, right? I don't really see an issue. I'm gonna, toss a summon at her weapon. Not gonna get it. That really stings. I don't know how much I'm into her weapon. We did the summon, and I got a 5-star. Where are you? Oh, okay. I'm not doing any more summons. If I'm that deep into pity for a weapon, I'm good. Yeah, we did a 10 pull, and we got a weapon, so it's like, well, now it's kind of like I gotta. But no, we're not gonna do that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.